welcome Dr. Alexandra Alexandrova. Dr. Alexandrova is a physicist and researcher with a deep interest in neurophysiology and the mind-body connection. Alongside her scientific work, she supports individuals as a mind-body therapist, integrating psychological, somatic, and neurophysiological approaches to foster resilience, health, and a more conscious way of living. Her work beautifully bridges inner experiences and systematic understanding. Today she'll present From Inner Coherence to Global Harmony. That'll be the title of the presentation. Please warmly welcome Dr. Alexandrova.
Thank you, Jenny, so much. Dear all, I'm so happy to be here. It's a great honor to present today. I go to the title slide. So, we have said lots about the global scales and smaller the scale of family, and now we come to the very small scale of every one of us, and we will see what's going on the level of micro level of one element of the huge system, and how the interrelation of us shapes can affect the global picture. So humans are interconnected. This is inevitable. We see it. On the left side, you see the representation and image of one person friendship on Facebook, and by color you see different areas of human activity. So you see that we are all interrelated and we are connected in our activities also, from the scale of family till the scale of large organization. On the right hand side you see the plot from the work of 2018 published in Science. Among the vast analysis of social networks, that was the clean experiment of the group of people who were exposed to a novel task, and there in the group of people some started to act newly, new behavior. Once the threshold of 25% is reached, the whole group started to behave in a new way. So the small local perturbations when the system reached 25% can trigger rapid system-level change. This is also illustrated in a very recent paper published in Journal of International Management, where the global network of our world was analyzed as each country is a node in this net, and the interaction and the intensity of this interaction is described by trading between the countries, by moving people one another, so traveling, scientific and IT collaboration. So what the study shows clearly is that once the system becomes more integral, so we get more benefits of it, at the same time we are more vulnerable to disruptions. So let's combine this all image and recent studies in one and think that at the moment of crisis, some 25% we don't know what, we don't see it on the global scale, a one-person behavior might trigger rapid system change. Let's see, what does it mean, behavior at all? So in HOML 2020, it is said that by analyzing and gathering the vast knowledge of neuroscience and behavior science, that almost all human actions can be described as a realization of implicit goals. Well, can be explicit, but as long as we see some explicit goals, there are some implicit, hidden, which do not always coherent. So Moni et al. 2020 present an integrated approach avoidance theory of motivated behavior, where the previous existed theories are governed in one simple approach, telling us only one simple thing, which is also clear for us with everyday experience. Our action is locked between having more benefits, avoiding risk. That's it. So we behave when we have some goal, Actually, we don't have unmotivated behavior. We would always find some motivation, and we want to avoid risk, and we want to increase benefit. And here is the representation on more deeper level inside of us of Gogol current biology, published in 2017. So sensory information comes to us and then undergoes very, very difficult, hidden in kind of black box, but uncovered quite well by neuroscientists and neurophysiologists in the brain and the body together. So we kind of process information in the complex neural network, which involves also the very well developed areas like Natasha was speaking in the first talk today, also with some bodily feelings, autonomic regulation, so interoception. And this complex neural network basically gives us, after long-term but very fast for microsecond calculations, what this situation which I perceive gives to me: more risk or more benefit. And then we anticipate the behavior, either approach or avoid. And the sad thing is that such a important for us approaching or avoiding is done without almost our control. If we don't think about it, this we do automatically, because this system is well installed with our previous everyday, every moment experience and our physiology. If we go to more deeper level of the body, so we know quite well that there are two distinct systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic, and each organ and each tissue of our body is innervated by two distinct nerves, one from sympathetic, which is called fight, flight, freeze. On the behavioral level, this system is governing those reactions. And parasympathetic, relax and digest. So for instance, heart, we have both nerves coming to the heart, and if we perceive some danger in the shaking bush and we want to run fast out, so the sympathetic system switches on and it works quite well so that we can escape. And this is very well established during a long process of our development. All animals have, we almost like them, similar, and this is very good to have both systems, okay? But we can imagine that if in ancient times we were a couple of times per day, like running from some tiger or what, but nowadays we can be in fight or flight or freeze reaction from the very moment till the late evening, because those reactions we might receive from interaction of surrounding world with our kids, with our parents, with our relatives, with our friends, people on the street, and colleagues. So we can understand that when we use too much the sympathetic system, we can be in trouble really physically. So the suffering might be also not only emotional suffering, but also physical suffering. Okay, now let's zoom out a bit and look what's going on. So we see here a clear picture that we are almost like a neural network. We receive some information of the reality, so we perceive it a kind of. Here the reality, we have some waves I plotted, but I have no idea what is reality, because when I touch the world, I receive only my interpretation, the signals which come from the receptor of the skin, which is not the reality, but the response of my receptor to the reality. This principle works on all five senses, and we now see that we do not really perceive the world. We perceive our reaction to the world already. Now the complex system in the brain constructs the context which we see. This complex system also, we see here the red signal illustrating that we might have some suffering from interaction with the reality, which we have no idea what is it, and give backward the reaction. So stress and suffering are reactions to not to the world, to our perception. And Friston 2005 famous model tells us we do not perceive reality directly, we perceive the brain's hypothesis about the reality. And the Hudson 2023 shows the work on neural networks specifically, so that we as neural networks learn the life by minimizing the prediction error. Would be so nice to be a bit closer to the reality. Could we change a kind of perception and come closer and be like on this picture, maybe more coherent to reality? So, and this talk tells us, and there will be an experimental study on therapy, counseling therapy sessions with people, and the vast statistics now is presented on 4 typical cases where we would see what's going on when we try at least to change the perception. So is it easy? No, it is not. So changing perception, we would say this is a regular workout. What are those workouts? First, let's switch off our perception. So we don't want to see the world, touch it, but we will use mental imagery. So lots of papers, including this, Scott-Nicklington 2019, shows that mental imagery recruits sensory cortices, autonomic responses, emotional circuits. So for our brain and body, actually it doesn't matter whether we're really touching and looking at it or we imagine it. Yeah, maybe the amplitude of the signal will be different, but we definitely can bring the body and mind in the similar situation, but just imagine it. And then we will use in the therapy the approach, the method which is called by the author Elena Guskova Satori healing therapy. The key idea is we catch the reaction, we stop the reaction to the world, to the perception of the world, and then you see those signals are black. Then we will speak about what happened when we stop the reaction, and the whole therapy approach involves various tools how to deal with this very difficult, very terrible moment, which brings the person to the acceptance of what's going on without the reaction. So, but first we need to change this reaction. And let's see the case number 1. I call it acute suffering. Acute because from time to time, just from time to time, she cannot say no to her boss. So on purpose, I use her, and the image is a boy and father, doesn't matter, because we try to be as much general as possible. So I cannot say no. And this is already reaction to the context. We close eyes and we imagine where she cannot say no. And she says, my boss, she's so demanding. I have lots of tasks and I should take my job, all the work, all the paperwork to weekend to home. I cannot go from work earlier. So you see all this chain of suffering. So what we do, we reverse the reaction. How? So she cannot say no. So in imagery, in this film, which she is watching, she says, no, you can't imagine how terrible is it. By the way, if you try to be with me now, be careful, because you might also get some feeling which is really unpleasant. And we have the whole number of tools to deal with mind and body at the very moment of this feeling when I say no, I was never able to. And the feeling which almost all people saw, this wording, powerlessness, is so typical. It's almost always comes to this dark, terribly empty feeling, powerlessness. What happens next? The context change. She doesn't see anymore her boss. She sees her father and she says, oh, my father, I cannot say no, and I'm small, I don't know why I see it. So you see the brain, it kind of takes from the memory some typical situation which we accumulated before to the same feeling and type of reaction. So once we took which was on the surface, we get more deeper and we go even to the level of the body. So she says, I want to shrink. I cannot say no to him. And he's so big, I don't know why in the real life he's not so big. So we reverse the reaction. We straighten the shoulders, stand up straight. This is extremely difficult to do for the person. We observe her standing up straight, but the body feels complete powerlessness. And what happens next? We might say magically, but this is so interesting that at the very moment all the reactions are stopped, from the high level of I say no to my boss to the very deep bodily level where I open up. And so no reaction, context changes. The father became the same scale as the hero of our case, and the feeling is calmness, confidence, and joy. Always joy. And in the long term, first, the relation with the boss changed completely. It seems that without this need of behavior of the boss from another side, so that I can say no and suffer, the boss behaved differently. And the alcoholic, strangely, doesn't give me extra work so that I don't need to work on weekends. The relation with the father changed. So let's go to the next case. Chronic suffering. Chronic we call because it's not from time to time, it might be years. And I hate him, he ruins all my life. And it can be with a person nearby, with a person far away, or with a person already dead many years and she's already 70 and crying that her mom it ruined all her life. Okay, so here's the context. We reverse it. We reverse the reaction. I can fight. So if I want to fight, I cannot. So we do opposite. He will never hear me. I stay calmly. At this very moment, powerlessness comes. And then, at this very moment, context changes. The feeling of strength, self-confidence, always joy, and the relation with the person changed completely. If mother was calling every evening telling something annoying, then she started to call to her mother and become more neat and more harmony installed in the very long term. Let's go to disease as a particular case of suffering. Acute symptoms. We have it frequently. For instance, headache. This is already reaction. What is the context? Let's see the context. I need to understand. I need to solve the problems. This is so frequently for scientists, we know. And actually, if we think that the person is alone with this problem, no. There is always someone with whom the interaction is playing on. So I need to understand because I need to present on the conference and I really need them to understand my idea. My idea is so great. They need to believe me and understand. So we reverse this reaction. I will never understand this and I will never solve this and come to the magic point of complete powerlessness, which gives feeling of energy, vitality, and joy. And by the way, all the troubles which were so like shrinking the person became very clear. The paper is written and submitted to the journal and, well, no problem at all. And disease, the acute symptom, doesn't come. And now we come to the last case, chronic disease. So the backache, which is, again, the reaction to our perception to life. What's going on? I tried so hard, but I'm not appreciated. He is telling that I do for her as much as I can, but she doesn't appreciate me. And this happens in the internal imagery. When we go into visualizations, we see this problem when he is trying and she does not she's not still happy. And from the wife and this conflict, we come to the context with the previous wife. And no matter how many marriages and divorces you had, this kind of conflict and typical reaction is still there. And we come to the situations with mother at the childhood. And doesn't matter, this is not mother or first wife or later wives make this all happen. This is something inside of me which I wish the others cannot give me. I suffer, and my bodily reactions finally cannot make it and actually break. So I want to run away. I don't want to be here. We reverse it. We play the movie. I cannot escape. So I have to stop. Turn around. This is very difficult to do. I imagine how I do it, but my body feels. And then we come to the feeling of complete powerlessness. At that very moment, the person feels certitude, serenity, and joy, no reaction. And guess what? In a long-term perspective, the relationship with the wife changed for more harmony, mutual understanding, while therapy was only for him. There is some not clear point at all. What's going on here? All the goal of our therapy is to bring the person to the very bottom of the hell of powerlessness, complete, as people say, literally death. At that very moment, we can say as a consequence, but I can't even calculate those milliseconds, the person feels energy, serenity, calmness, joy, which they literally call life. So I should draw like this: death equals life. This is very strange. And what is dying here? Knowing that we both, after psychotherapy, we are alive with the person with whom I work. Let's call it ego, which is the very right way to what's going on. Let's see. All the problems which people have can be formulated in one phrase: I want, or I don't want, which is similar. So I act. And we know that we always have a goal, and we act according to the goal. We want more benefits and to avoid risk. I want, and the most frequent phrases are: I want him to do something, I want her to behave somehow, blah, blah. You see, so what we do in therapy, we not only stop action by modeling in our neural network, we also stop this desire. So we stop, we shrink, we kind of reduce this will, this want, I want. Instead of it, what people say more about how they interact with the person in mental imagery after the session, or in real life after the session, in a long term. I feel, I intend, I act. And here we come to the point of more questions than answers. We know that all actions which we do are motivated action. We need to have some goal. What is the goal here? I feel, I feel her, I feel him, I feel how he feels. So I intend what? Frequently people literally formulate that they have intention to actually feel the other person, have those connections more harmonious, and their action come from this point. So let's go to the conclusions, having those questions in mind which are not yet really answered, and we will have more research on it. Results and conclusions on local scale, at the human level. The reactions to avoid powerlessness. So we don't want to avoid, we think we want to avoid the situation, but we in fact want to avoid our powerlessness in this situation. When we stop this reaction, and we do it clean in therapy, we don't do it on the field, So we change the suffering and illness. So suffering and illness comes from avoidance of our powerlessness. And when we reverse the reaction and accept this powerlessness, we come to freedom and joy. And on the large scale, of the system level, suffering and illness, we propose to call them, to see them as signals of disrupted connections. If we are all interconnected, and some of connections are not well, not harmonious. I feel not good when he calls me. I don't want him to come. I don't want her to meet her on the street. You see? And this kind of light signal, but when I have a headache or worse, the backache for many years, this is a very strong signal of a very bad connection. But we are already connected. We cannot just disconnect. So it would be great to see suffering and disease as those signals. And what to do? To do personal inner work, to restore connection. Is it easy? Not at all, because we need to go through the acceptance of this very, very point of powerlessness. This is so strange, but only like this we come to freedom and joy and restored connection. And if we want to come to the global level, and we want here, who are here today at our conference, we think about global scale of humanity on this planet. So local repairing human connections bring global harmony. And one small remark, we know that nature is one, and no matter complex systems involving electrons and magnetic fields or human beings connected together, mathematics which describes it is similar, and the processes which are going on are kind of similar. And we know, for instance, which is close to my experience, plasma physics, one electron moving around makes magnetic field, creates magnetic field. But once lots of electrons appeared in the external magnetic field, they start to follow this magnetic field. And this system of plasma can be well in harmony until the moment of a strong stresses. When the stress of magnetic field gets higher, then the whole system might be disrupted, as in the solar flares. And the microscale are key there, which is called the process of reconnection, when the huge bunch of plasma disconnects from the sun and comes closer to the earth and gives us some effects. So we can think that, yes, microscales are very important. Yes, macroscales are also important. There is a complex and not yet clearly mathematically explained interaction when we try to explain microscales and macroscales together. But at the moment of at the situation of the strong stress on global scales, microscales are crucial. Thank you so much. You are welcome for questions.
Thank you very much. I think you said a lot of things that are the opposite of how 99% of humanity perceive themselves and reality. So there's probably some questions. Let's start with the Zoom. Anyone in the Zoom who wants to ask. Okay, Andrei?
Два вида сильных взаимодействий.
In our world, we have two different ways of interaction. One weak and one strong, and we still have unknown part of interaction. But we know that there is two different levels in interaction. What do you think if the person is some powerful field?
Okay, Andrei, first of all, thank you very much for your activity. You're asking so many questions. That's great. Second, the question was long, but I think I catch the idea. So we are both. And we are, as Valeria Khachaturan, she told us on her talk before, that from the historical perspective, we are in the center, and our desire is in the center. So everything starts from our desire. And what is going on, actually interesting from the historical point of view, each shift to the next level in our society interactions and in civilization development was with changing of the dominant desires. It seems that this process takes place also on a small scale of each person once we stop the action and desire. As we do in therapy, we kind of move to the next level. And what is the next level? Then interesting, because it seems that we speak a lot about that humanity is now on the level of the next stage of forming the global interrelated superorganism. And it seems that the small scales of everyone desires development plays a crucial role there. I don't know whether I asked completely to the question.
Okay, we have a couple of questions from social media. So, okay, this first one, I think, is referring to what you talked about how we have basically constant intentions, probably unconscious, but constant intentions. So it says, this is so important, but it's so hard to change our ways of thinking and our perception of reality. Sometimes we don't realize our thoughts. How can we practice changing our thinking?
Very good questions. Exactly. This is very difficult for all of us. And despite the fact that I'm speaking so freely about it, me myself, this is very difficult. So as I said, this is a everyday workouts. But if we start to reverse our everyday, every moment of vision of our action and interaction, we can gain a lot. So and we shouldn't wait till the disease come actually, or really suffering. We can start with the very small signals of inconvenience. When we interact with someone, I'm listening to him, he's telling something, but I'm not thinking 100% of what he's telling. I take a bit of percentage to realize what I'm feeling at this very moment. And if I feel, oh my God, I don't want to listen to him, I hate him as it is, I just don't, I ask why, what's going on? So I'm always between the reality which I perceive and how do I feel. And this is a very gaining strategy. It might help us to avoid a lot of crises between us, in the families, with children, with parents. So I'm not fully in the reality how it is. I'm a kind of between. And I always control what my neural network is doing, because living as an animal is quite, we have all some quite installed experience from childhood, from I don't know where, interaction of society. It affects us. Every word which we read affects our system and brings weights to this neural network. So people call itself be conscious, but we need to know conscious in which way. I feel something. It doesn't mean that now I want to escape. I want to know what's going on and why I am so afraid of this person. I want to avoid him. Why? What is inside of me that I choose the strategy?
No, let's do one more question. Why don't you choose, since you see it in the chat?
No, I think we just said how to work from inside. What are recommendations to help people? Yeah, that was exactly. Yeah, to be always in this work of looking at your intention, and know always that your suffering and your disease is a signal. It's not something which it's a pill so that it disappears. No, it is something we need to clearly look what is under it. Thank you.
I think I almost never look at my intention. So that's came across, but more importantly, your passion came across. And we're going to move on now.